بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد فقد قال الحكيم في كتابه الكريم فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. Almighty Allah says in verse 184 of Surah Al-Baqarah, من كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. Whoever among you is ill or on a journey, he has to fast on any other days. He cannot fast while he is on a journey. So based on this verse, it is forbidden for a traveler, for a person who undertakes a journey to observe fast unless his profession is traveling. He cannot observe fast. The argument that says that the time when people used to walk on their foot or people used to walk a long distance without having any means or any vehicle has passed, and now people do not get tired. People have cars, trains, and people can travel by train. This argument is out of place here, because when it comes to traveling, we have to submit ourselves to whatever the Quran says. The Quran says that you have to break your fast while on a journey. And there is no such thing as getting tired or getting thirsty or something like that. So we have to be submissive, we have to submit ourselves to God and to His commandments. Now, as you know very well, a person on a journey cannot observe fast. He must break his fast if he is going to undertake a journey of 44 kilometers or more. But if his journey is less than 44 kilometers, that is, let's say 43 kilometers, or less than 8 farsakh, then he must observe fast. Of course, if the outward and return distance, both of them make 44 kilometers, now let's say 22 kilometers the outward distance and 22 kilometers would be the return distance. If a person travels and he intends to return back home, and the total distance makes 44 kilometers, then again he has to break his fast. He has to shorten his prayers. Of course, if he is a shepherd, if he is a nomad, if he is a traveler by profession, like a bus driver, like a train driver, like a seller, he must observe fast because he is a traveler by profession. His profession involves traveling and moving from place to place, just like a shepherd or like a nomad who moves from one city to another city, from one land to another land, another piece of land. Unless your journey is for an urgent purpose or for a justified reason, like when you want to travel for Hajj or for Umrah, your journey, undertaking a journey in the holy month of Ramadan is abominable. It is makruh. But if you are going to travel for a very important task, for maybe for performing Hajj or for performing Umrah, then it is not abominable. There is no objection and there is no harm in traveling for such purposes. If you are going to observe fast for a special fast on a special day, there are certain days in which it is forbidden to travel. For example, if you are observing i'tikaf during the last 10 days, because you can observe i'tikaf in the month of Ramadan, and i'tikaf is observed in the last 10 days of Ramadan. If it is the third day which you are going to stay in the mosque, the second day has already been completed and you are going to observe i'tikaf for a third day, because i'tikaf, the least number of days in which one has to observe i'tikaf is 3 days. So if you have already stayed in a mosque for 2 days and there is one more day left till you complete the entire i'tikaf ritual, then you cannot travel. You cannot go on a journey. Your journey is forbidden. This is one instance. Another instance is that you might be observing a special fast. Like, for example, you have been hired by someone to observe fast on a special day or maybe on a special Friday, and you have accepted that. You have accepted that you would fast because you have taken the money, or maybe you have promised to do that, or you may have vowed to observe fast in such manner that you will not, for example, fast on that day, you will not travel on that day, or you have accepted to observe fast on such a day. As I said, you have taken money for that, you have been hired for that, and you have been said to observe fast on Friday, and so in that case you cannot undertake a journey. Of course, traveling on that day is forbidden, and you must observe fast according to the promise, according to the pledge you have made. Now, if you have made a general vow, a general nadhr, as it is said in the Arabic terminology, it is permissible for you to undertake a journey or to go on a journey. There is no contradiction between undertaking a journey and observing fast if you have made a nadhr. For example, if you have made a nadhr that you will observe fast on a special Friday, on a special day, for example, but something happens and you have to go on a journey, or you will be needed to go on a journey or to undertake a journey. In that case, you can travel and as well as you can fast. And this is the only fast which is made allowable and which is permissible, because that has to be, the nadhr has to be fulfilled in the same manner that it has been made. I give you another example in which you are allowed to observe fast even if you are on a journey. If you have made a nadhr that you will observe fast even if you are on a journey, even if you will need to go on a journey. There is no problem on that, in that fast. You can observe fast and there would be no problem. So if an occasion arises where you will have to observe fast on the very day in which you have to travel also, then there is no objection to observing fast. And dear brothers and sisters, a person who has a haja, a wish to be granted, and he goes to Medina, for example, he can observe fast for 3 days in order for his haja, for his wish to be granted. This is a special fast. He can observe fast for 3 days, and the religious scholars, the religious authorities have said that such a fast is allowed and there is no objection. But it has been said that it is better for that person to begin fasting on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, these are the best days in which he can observe fast there, even if he is on a journey, even if he is a traveler.
يا دافع الخطوب يا جابر المعطوف يا من هو مندوبي فعفوك مطلوبي يا دافع الخطوب يا جابر المعطوف يا من هو مندوبي فعفوك مطلوبي يا ستار العيوب يا غفار الذنوب يا ستار العيوب يا غفار الذنوب يا علام الغيوب يا كشاف الكروب.
If a person, now there's a question, you, for example, did not know that observing fast during a journey is forbidden, and you observe fast and also went on a journey. Now the question is that since you did not know that the ruling, the hukum, the order regarding fasting by a traveler, now the question is your fast valid in this case or not? The religious scholars have said that it is valid because you did not know that. But if you come to know while you are fasting, while you are observing fast, and you are on a journey, and during the journey you come to know that fasting by a traveler is forbidden, then you must immediately break your fast and you cannot keep fasting. You cannot continue observing fast. The fast of that day must be broken, and the qadha of that day must be given, the qadha of that day must be observed. As far as the fast of the previous days are concerned, which you observed while you were fasting, while you were traveling, then the fast of those days are valid and it's not necessary to repeat them. Now, what about forgetting? If you forget, if you are oblivious of the fact that fasting by a traveler is forbidden, or if a person forgets that he is a traveler, or forgets that the fast of a traveler is void, for example, because those are, and there are two instances. Once you forget that you are a traveler, or you forget that fasting by a traveler is void, in this case, what is the Islamic law about it, and how should you go about it? The scholars, the religious authorities have said that fasting by such a person is invalid, and he must observe the qadha whenever he can. Dear brothers and sisters, if a person undertakes a journey after midday, as I may have mentioned in the previous sessions, in the previous lectures, he cannot break his fast because he leaves his hometown, the city where he was born, his home or city, after midday, and when you leave your hometown after midday, then you must keep observing fast. Although you must offer your prayers as short, because there is a general criteria, as some scholars have mentioned, that wherever you shorten your prayers, you should also break your fast and you cannot observe fast. But here there is an exception. Here you shorten your prayers because after midday you travel and maybe on a journey you are fasting, but you are shortening your prayers because you have left your hometown after midday. This is where you shorten your prayers, maybe because if you have not actually offered your prayers in your hometown and you are going to offer it while on a journey, you shorten your prayers but you are still observing fast. This is an instance where you are observing fast but you are still shortening your prayers. This is an exception. There is an occasion where you might be on a journey and you reach your hometown before midday. Sometimes you have eaten something and sometimes you have not eaten anything. If you have not eaten anything while you have reached your hometown before midday, then you must keep fast. It is mandatory, it is obligatory for you to keep fast. Observing fast is mandatory. But if you have eaten before reaching home, before arriving home, you have eaten something, and in this case you have broken your fast and you can eat. You cannot observe fast because you have already broken, you have had breakfast, for example, so you cannot observe fast. But the religious scholars have said that it is recommended, it is mustahab to avoid eating and drinking till Maghrib, till dusk. It is a mustahab thing that you can do, but it is not necessary, it's not mandatory to avoid or to abstain from eating and drinking, because you have already broken your fast while you are on a journey. But it is mustahab to avoid eating and drinking. There is no doubt that if a traveler reaches his hometown after Zuhr, or the place where he intends to stay for 10 days, he reaches there after midday, of course he cannot observe fast on that day because he reaches there after midday. But if he reaches, as I mentioned, if he reaches his hometown or the place where he intends to stay for 10 days or for more than 10 days, if he reaches before midday, he must observe fast. But if he reaches after midday, there is no doubt that he must break his fast and his fast is invalid. Now, dear brothers and sisters, there are some people on whom fasting is not obligatory. Who are those people? This is an important question. As you know very well, as I may have mentioned in the previous sessions also, one of those people is an aged person. An aged person, a person who is very old and who cannot observe fast due to old age. Because fasting is extremely hard for him. It is sometimes unbearable, or maybe the difficulty is too much for him to tolerate. Normally, if it is extremely difficult and hard, so he cannot fast, and of course he must give 1 mud of foodstuffs, 750 grams of food like wheat, barley, rice, bread, or maybe noodles to the poor, and it's not necessary for him to observe fast because of the same reason, because of the excuse which I mentioned, that is because of their hardship.
ناجيتك يا رحمن ودعوتك يا ديان يا خالق الإنسان الله 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 يا خالق الإنسان الله
Of course, if he recovers sometimes in the future, maybe after 1 year or 2 or 3 years, he recuperates, he gains his health back, he becomes strong once again, or he becomes capable of observing fast, and fasting is no longer for him difficult, is no longer hard for him, then again he must observe fast, and there is no objection to fasting. Fasting in that case is obligatory. Now, what is the second case or the second instance where fasting is not obligatory? If a person is suffering from an illness which causes him an illness which makes him unable to observe fast, because if he observe fast, he will have to suffer extreme thirst, he will have to, or maybe his illness will be intensified due to excessive thirst or hunger or something like that, then, or maybe he will get dehydrated, and as a result his health will be affected. His health will be affected. In that case, if one even fears that fasting will affect his health, it will deteriorate his health, or it will further intensify his illness, then in this case it's not permissible for him to observe fast. To be afraid and to fear, that is sufficient. It's not necessary to be certain. It's not necessary to be sure that that fasting is going to impact his health negatively, or it's going to destroy his health, or it's going to actually further aggravate his health condition. To be afraid or to fear, that is enough. Now, another example is for a pregnant woman. If a woman is at an advanced stage of pregnancy, for example, she is maybe she is 7 or 8 or 9 months pregnant, and if fasting is going to affect her health or the child's health, then it's not permissible for her to observe fast. And even some scholars have said that a pregnant woman who is afraid of her health or the health of her child with which she is pregnant, she cannot and she must not observe fast because of the same reason, because it will affect her health or the child's health, and she needs enough nutrition, enough liquids, and enough water to drink, so in order for the child to remain safe, or in order for the mother's health to remain safe. So in this case, she cannot observe fast. But okay, some scholars have said that a woman at an advanced stage of pregnancy cannot observe fast. So you will have to turn to the Risala, to the epistles of Islamic laws written by religious scholars, and you have to abide by the fatwa of your own marja. You can actually email your marja or send him an email to ask him if it is forbidden for a woman, for a pregnant woman, whether she is at an early stage of pregnancy or at an advanced stage of pregnancy. I believe if a woman is afraid or fears that her health might be affected or the child's health might be affected, then it's not permissible for him to observe fast. And this is the view and the opinion of most of the scholars. Maybe there are few scholars who might have whose fatwa might be a little bit varied, and when it comes to a pregnant woman. Now, if a woman is suckling a child, if a woman is breastfeeding a child, is she allowed to observe fast or not? The same response or the same fatwa applies to this case also. Actually, the position is the same here. If a woman's milk is reduced or decreases as a result of fasting, or if the child's health is at risk, then in this case it's not permissible for the woman to observe fast. And it does not make any difference whether the woman is fasting, whether she is breastfeeding her own child or breastfeeding another woman's child, or she is breastfeeding for many. There's a child that needs a mother to breastfeed it. In this case, it does not make any difference whether you are actually breastfeeding your child or maybe you are breastfeeding another woman's child. So in this case, you can break your fast if you consider it probable and if you fear that fasting might affect your health or that the child's health, or it may reduce the amount of milk needed for the child. Of course, if there is an alternative, if there is a way, if there is a solution for the child, like for example, if you can give the child food or maybe the powder milk or something like that, then if that is sufficient and if that can work, then you must observe fast. The woman must observe fast, and she cannot evade fasting. Now, dear brothers and sisters, there are some haram fasting and some also makruh fasting. Fasting on the days of Eid al-Adha and on the day of Eid al-Fitr is forbidden. There is no doubt about it. All scholars have and all religious authorities are unanimous about fasting, about the forbiddenness and prohibition of fasting on the two Eid days, Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr. There is no doubt about it. And it's also haram for a wife to keep a mustahab fast if her husband prohibits her, or if it is counter to her duty. For example, her husband wants her to be available for her in bed, and her husband wants her to submit herself for sexual intercourse, for example, and then the woman wants to observe a mustahab fast. Of course, in this case, she cannot observe fast. It is haram for her to do so. And it's haram for the children to observe fast if their parents, due to parental love, due to emotional love, due to the instinctual love for their child, forbid them from fasting. If their parents forbid them from fasting for the same reason as I mentioned, due to parental love, then it is forbidden for that child to observe fast. And of course, I should say that it is, I mean the mustahab fast, the recommended fast, not the obligatory fast. And of course, if a person is certain or has a feeling that fasting is harmful to him, this is also another case, and maybe fasting is injurious to his health, then in this case, he must not observe fast because of the very reason that fasting will affect his health and will have a negative impact on his or on her health. If a person, of course, who believes that fasting is not harmful to him, observe fast and realizes after Maghrib that actually it was harmful to his health, it was injurious to his health, then in this case he should, on the basis of obligatory precaution, he should give the qadha of that fast, and that fast had not been valid, so qadha is obligatory. Dear brothers and sisters, observing fast on the 10th of Muharram is not haram, but it is makruh. According to many scholars, it is abominable, and it's better to avoid fasting. And if you have not eaten anything in the morning, it is better for you to eat something after midday. And also, if a person doubts whether it is the 9th day of Zul Hijjah, which is the day of Arafah, or maybe the day of Eid al-Adha, then it is also makruh for him to observe fast, because it is a matter of doubt. If you are certain that it is the day of Arafah, then of course it's recommended for you to observe fast. But if you are not certain, If you doubt whether it is the day of Arafah, which is the 9th or day of Zul Hijjah, or and the day of Eid al-Adha is the 10th day of Zul Hijjah, if you are doubt, it is makruh to observe fast. Otherwise, if you are certain, there is no objection, and it's recommended even to observe fast on the day of Arafah, and you will earn a lot of sawab, a lot of reward for fasting on this very day. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا
يا ربنا
واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا ربنا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا ربنا يا ربنا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا ربنا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا